The morning sun glinted off the polished hood of the 1969 Mustang Mach 1, casting dancing reflections against the pristine white garage door of number 42 Oak Crest Drive. Elias Thorne buffed a microscopic speck of dust off the chrome bumper, a small smile playing on his lips. This car wasn't just metal and rubber. It was a restoration project he had poured 3 years of weekends into. It was his sanctuary. Elias had moved into the Oak Crest Heights subdivision 2 weeks ago. It was a quiet, gated community known for its manicured lawns and a homeowners association that treated a stray dandelion like a felony. He liked the quiet. As a man who spent his days navigating the complexities of city politics and public safety, the silence of the suburbs was a welcome change. "Hey Mom, look, that's the one." The shrill voice of a teenager shattered the morning calm. Elias looked up to see a boy, perhaps 16, pointing a finger at the Mustang. Beside him stood a woman who personified the neighborhood's rigid reputation. She wore a crisp tennis outfit, her blonde hair pulled back in a ponytail so tight it seemed to pull her eyebrows upward. This was Brenda Higgins, the HOA president, though Elias didn't know her name yet. "Excuse me," Brenda said, marching up the driveway with her son, Tyler, in tow. She didn't offer a greeting. She simply came to a halt at the edge of his property line as if there were an invisible barrier. "I haven't seen this vehicle registered with the committee." Elias straightened up, tossing the microfiber cloth over his shoulder. "Good morning, I'm Elias. I just moved in. I was planning to drop the paperwork off at the office tomorrow." Brenda didn't look at Elias. Her eyes were locked on the car. "It's loud. Tyler heard you pull in last night. We have strict noise ordinances starting at 9:00 p.m. "It's a classic engine," Elias said mildly. "I try to keep the revs low when I'm in the neighborhood." "It's awesome," Tyler interrupted, stepping closer to the car. He reached out to touch the side mirror, but Elias gently stepped between the boy and the vehicle. "Careful, son, the oils from your hands can smudge the finish," Elias said. Tyler scowled. "Mom, you said I could have a cool car for my birthday. This is exactly what I want. Tell him to sell it." Brenda's expression shifted from annoyance to a calculating sort of entitlement. "You heard him. Name your price. It would save you the trouble of dealing with the citations I'll have to issue for that oil stain I see in your driveway." Elias looked down. "That's a water spot from the hose, Mrs. Higgins, President Higgins," she corrected. "And I'm serious. My son wants the car. You're new here. You clearly don't understand how things work in Oak Crest. We look out for our own. You sell us the car and I'll make sure your transition into the neighborhood is seamless. Otherwise, I can make life very difficult for you." Elias felt a familiar weight in his chest, the weariness of a man who had dealt with bullies in suits and badges his entire life. "The car isn't for sale, Mrs. Higgins, and I'd appreciate it if you stayed off my driveway." Brenda's face flushed a deep, angry red. "Excuse me, do you know who you're talking to? People like you are lucky to even get past the gate. I personally vet every application and I don't recall seeing your face." "I bought the house through a private trust," Elias said calmly. "Everything is legal. Now if you'll excuse me, I have work to get to." "You're being aggressive," Brenda snapped, pulling her phone from her pocket. "I feel threatened, and I suspect this vehicle might be stolen. How else does a person like you afford a $100,000 restoration?" Elias felt a cold spark of anger, but he kept his voice steady. "A person like me? Please be specific, Brenda." "You know exactly what I mean. You don't fit the profile of this community. You're disrespectful, you're loud, and you're clearly hiding something. Tyler, go stand by the sidewalk. I'm calling the police." "Mom, just get him to give me the keys," Tyler whined. "Don't worry, honey. When the police get here and find out he doesn't have the registration for this trophy, they'll impound it. Then we'll buy it at the police auction for a fraction of the cost." Elias leaned against the Mustang, folding his arms. "You're sure you want to do that?" "Oh, I'm positive," she sneered, the phone already at her ear. The wait was short. Within 10 minutes, 2 patrol cruisers pulled up to the curb, their lights flashing blue and red against the suburban greenery. 2 officers stepped out, Officer Miller, a veteran with a tired gait, and Officer Haynes, a younger man who looked like he was itching for some action. Brenda practically ran to them. "Officers, thank God you're here. I'm Brenda Higgins, the HOA president. We have a major situation. This man is trespassing. Well, he claims he lives here, but I haven't seen proof, and he's in possession of a high-value stolen vehicle. He's been extremely hostile toward me and my son." Officer Miller looked at Elias, who remained leaning against the car, calm and silent. Miller's eyes then moved to the Mustang, then back to Elias. A flicker of recognition crossed his face, but he kept it professional. "Sir, can you step away from the vehicle and show me some ID?" Miller asked. "He's dangerous," Brenda shouted. "Search him, he's probably carrying." Officer Haynes moved toward Elias, his hand resting on his belt. "Sir, keep your hands where I can see them. Let's see that ID." Elias didn't move quickly. He reached into his back pocket and pulled out a leather wallet. He didn't hand over a driver's license. He flipped it open to a gold shield and a laminated ID card. The silence that followed was heavy. Officer Miller's eyes went wide. He snapped to attention so fast his joints practically popped. "Chief, I didn't realize, the address on the dispatch was—" "It's all right, Miller," Elias said, his voice dropping into a deep, authoritative tone that he usually reserved for press conferences. "You're doing your job." Brenda's jaw dropped. She looked from the badge to Elias, then back to the officers. Chief of what? He's probably a security guard. Officers arrest him for impersonating an official." Officer Miller turned to Brenda, his face set in a grim line. "Mrs. Higgins, I suggest you be very quiet right now. This is Elias Thorne. He was sworn in as the chief of police for this city 3 days ago. He's our boss." Tyler, who had been smugly waiting for the thief to be handcuffed, took a slow step backward toward the sidewalk. Brenda went pale. The red flush of anger was replaced by a sickly gray. "Chief, but the house, the car." Elias stepped forward, walking slowly toward the edge of his driveway. He didn't stop until he was inches from Brenda. She shrunk back, the bravado of the HOA president evaporating. "Mrs. Higgins," Elias said, his voice quiet but echoing in the still morning air. "I moved here because I wanted a quiet place to live after 25 years on the force. I followed every rule. I paid my dues. But within 10 minutes of meeting me, you've attempted to extort my property for your son, accused me of theft based on nothing but the color of my skin, and filed a false police report." I was just looking out for the neighborhood security," Brenda stammered. "We've had reports of suspicious activity." "The only suspicious activity I see is a public official. Yes, an HOA board member is a position of trust, abusing her power to harass a neighbor," Elias said. He turned to Miller. "Officer, what is the penalty for filing a false report in this district?" "It's a Class B misdemeanor, Chief. Can lead to a fine and up to 6 months in jail," Miller replied, his voice devoid of sympathy. Brenda looked like she might faint. "You wouldn't. I have a standing in this community. My husband is." "I don't care who your husband is, Brenda," Elias interrupted. "In my city, the law applies to everyone, even the woman who picks the color of the shutters." He looked at Tyler, who was staring at his shoes. "Son, a car is something you earn. You don't demand it, and you certainly don't use the police as your personal delivery service. You should be ashamed." Elias turned back to the officers. "I won't press charges for the false report today. I think Mrs. Higgins has had a very educational morning. However, I want a full record of this encounter filed. If there is one more noise complaint or one more suspicious person report coming from this address that isn't backed by a crime, I will personally oversee the investigation into harassment and civil rights violations." "Yes, Chief," both officers said in unison. "You're free to go," Elias told Brenda. She didn't wait. She grabbed Tyler's arm and practically dragged him down the street, her heels clicking frantically on the asphalt. She didn't look back once. Officer Miller stayed behind for a moment as Haynes went back to the cruiser. "Sorry about that, Chief. We get calls from this neighborhood all the time. She's a handful." "I can see that," Elias said, his tension finally beginning to bleed away. "Thanks for the quick response, Miller. It's good to know the boys are on their toes." "Anytime, sir, and for what it's worth, that Mustang is the cleanest Mach 1 I've ever seen." Elias smiled. "Thanks, see you at the station tomorrow." As the patrol cars pulled away, the neighborhood returned to its eerie, manicured silence. Elias picked up his microfiber cloth and returned to his car. He polished the spot where Tyler had almost touched the mirror, the rhythmic motion calming his nerves. He knew his life in Oakcrest Heights wouldn't be exactly what he had envisioned. He wouldn't be just another neighbor. He was the man who had stared down the HOA president and won. But as he looked at his reflection in the deep blue paint of the Mustang, he felt a sense of peace. He had spent his career protecting people from bullies. It was only fitting that he had to do it one more time on his own front lawn. The Mustang's engine roared to life a moment later, a deep, rhythmic growl that echoed off the expensive houses. Elias shifted into gear and backed out of the driveway. He didn't care if it was too loud. He was the chief, and for the first time in a long time, he was exactly where he belonged. The title of his new life wasn't the outsider or the neighbor. It was something much more powerful. And as he drove past Brenda's house, seeing her peering fearfully through the slats of her expensive blinds, he knew she finally understood the reality of the situation. The HOA might run the neighborhood, but Elias Thorne ran the city.